goodness, that's perfect.
Okay, hold on. Before I... Are you buying cigarettes? He is glorious. I'm going to sell as much of this to him as I can before I arrest him. Because we know for a fact he is 3JQ, which is the person we were tipped off about. Yep, there it is. Contraband is cigarettes. I hope that's not the cigarettes I just sold you, sir.
There will be consequences.
We need one more.
Better stop.
One more person needs to follow. Come on.
Wait, not Nick Cage again? You have more than... Oh, no. Oh, no. Oh, no. He created additional...
You're at 100. I see 100.
No, I'm not gonna count. No, we're not counting that because Nick Cage can't...
May the children rise up in revolt and rebellion against the coming of the night. They shall not go into sleep quietly. They will not
First of all, for you to insult my integrity and wish doom upon me, I will destroy you.
I'm not afraid of you. You sound like the voice of someone that can't take you on. Come on.
I have to go fight this battle. Wish me luck. Good luck.
Punch you on
Goodbye.
your ankles. He came out of nowhere.
Yeah. I see my breath and it's being active.
Voice in particular makes this so entertaining.
It's in here. The temperature's dropping.
I'm glad that you're enjoying my suffering.
Do you enjoy this,
It gives
Strawberry?
It gives me great amusement, yes. I'm very easy to amuse, okay?
Wait, let's turn this hall light on in case it's a mirror. And let's turn the bedroom light off. I don't know what Soldier's doing, but...
And I'm dead.
I said, hey!
What's
going on? Hold on. I gotta get that. The keg is empty. The keg is empty.
Hey,
What I do?
Hey, no.
I don't have a bucket.
I've got the buckets. I'll be
I
in.
don't got no bucket.
I'll be in shortly.
I've got to close. We don't have no water.
You have a wonderful rest of your night, baby.
Oh my days.
Oh, wait, no, I missed! No, goodbye!
Oh, we lost someone.
That's
See,
good.
that's... I don't know how to pronounce that. You cease.
Don't want to. I'm quite amused. You shut your mouth.
You do. Somebody clip his laugh, please.
No.
Right, you? Clip the...
Fade from memory. Sounds a bit homo to me.
What is that thing?
You're
Oh, no, it's the fire!
fire monster! Yikes! Oh! Alright, head count. Who's still alive? Oh no.
Chunky, I'm hearing a lot of excuses, not a lot of results. Gonna have to work on that, bud. But welcome in, everybody. I hope everyone is having a good day. Hello, Rebozo. Congratulations on first. Chonky, you're late. As per usual, we'll be getting started here in but a moment. If you got a prayer request, get them in now. This is your opportunity to put them in before we get going. We will be opening with prayer, then we will hop into our Bible reading. Today, our verse of the day coming from Ephesians 6:12 and 13. Then we shall carry on with the book of Psalms with Psalms 95. After which, it is a Media Monday. We're going to watch some videos, and we might play some games while we watch the videos. I haven't quite settled on it yet. Also, Chonky, I don't want to hear excuses. Your internet coming out of the swamps means nothing. Mine comes from a line that was built in, like, the 40s. I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear it. A lot of excuses going on up in here. Still better than Cox. Yep. A swamp is a better ISP than Cox Internet is. And it's not even a competition. So to fuel your extraction shooter addiction, you've been playing Kirby games. That's a bit of a logical jump, but okay. Fair enough. I don't understand, but alright. Okay, though, let me... There... There we go, got all that set up. Glorious. I mean, basically, Chonky, basically that's what I have. In all seriousness, your mic could be better. I presume you're saying your day could be better? If that's the case, then I do hope that it improves, my friend. Autocorrect? You gotta love autocorrect. You could do better? I see. I'm not gonna lie. I feel ya on that. Also, I won't pretend as though I'm not planning to try and play some Helldivers for a little bit on stream today, potentially. I can't guarantee that stream will survive it. We shall see. We shall see. Kem, thank you for popping in. Drive safely, my friend. We will hopefully be here when you are done. Yeah, Chonky, I don't know what it is either. Like, it'll be fine, and then just out of nowhere, it'll be like, and dial-up. Dial-up mode activated. And I'm just like, but why? But why? I didn't do anything. I didn't even change anything. It's just 1 second, the internet's okay. The next, it's like, I've killed myself, sir. And I'm like, what? You did what? It's crazy, bro. It's crazy. And if it's not the internet killing itself, it's the computer killing itself. And I'm just over here like, what's going on? Why am I surrounded by tech issues? How does this always happen to me? I've got like the Midas touch, but everything I touch turns into, I don't know, blue screens or something. The internet is playing buckshot roulette with the PC. That sounds about right. You chewed on my Ethernet cable, Chonky, I'll beat you. You spit that out, you rat. But I believe I've given it enough time. We shall get the ball rolling. If you have any prayer requests, you're always still able to put them in. I just will add them to the list to pray on, most likely off a stream. You had a request? Oh? Was it one that you were talking about earlier? In all seriousness, you could be better at a few things. I presume that's what you're referring to. If you want to give any more information on it, you're welcome to. If you don't want to, you're quite alright, and we shall pray for it anyway. Your dad's mother passed recently, so pray for the family. Alright, we most certainly will then. We'll add that to our list. That's one? Alright. What are the others, if you have any others? And like I said, if you don't want to provide information on it, you don't have to. You can always do unspoken, and I will do them unspoken, but... Chem spook. Listening to my touch of tech. Yes, it's the touch of death for tech. The rest are... Okay, I think I get what you're trying to say now. They're more rants or or jokes than prayers. Well, alright, if that's the case, then we shall get the ball rolling. We can rant and rave and crack jokes all day long. The passing is serious? Yes. Yes, it is. It's always a serious moment when you lose anyone, especially someone that close. But, alright. We shall get the ball rolling then. Heavenly Father, we come to you today, and as we do, we ask that you open our hearts and our minds. Provide us wisdom, guidance, and discernment, that we may better understand the lessons that it is you intend for us to take from today. We ask that you continue to provide a refuge for us, a place where we can gather with our fellow Christians, or we can refresh and renew ourselves. We live in a world full of temptations, tragedies, and enemies all about us, that we see us torn down, led astray, and we just ask that you grant us the strength that is necessary to overcome each and every one of them today. We ask that you lay your healing hands on each and every one of us. You know our personal struggles, whether we have admitted them out loud or not. You know it's in our hearts. You know our needs better than we do. And we just ask that you grant us those needs today. In particular, we lift up Bozo's family, his father, with the passing of his mother, that they should find solace and peace, that they should be able to not only deal with the stress and the sadness that comes from this, but that they also can feel the light and the warmth that comes from that, knowing that they will see her again, that she will be there for them when they also arrive to the gates. And just to remind them that while it is hard to lose a family member, that it is also a good thing in its way, that they are no longer troubled by the struggles of the world, and that they are now with you. But above all, we ask for your mercy and for your forgiveness. We are not but sinners and fools, each and every one of us. Let your will be done in our lives. In your heavenly name we pray. Amen. All right. So, let's see. Our verse of the day today, Ephesians 6, 12, and 13 from the King James Version of the Bible. For we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places. Wherefore take unto you the whole armor of God, that ye may be able to withstand in the evil day, and having done all, to stand. If that ain't the truth. Now we are in a wrestle against flesh and blood as well. There are very, very many of those here on this mortal coil on Earth and in the human world that see fit to squabble with us, but they are of a secondary concern. They're more the playground bully that you have to just kind of shove off, you know. That they'll come and they'll cause trouble, but at the end of the day, they are not the main culprit. They are not the main enemy. They are not the main struggle that is against something so much more powerful than we are. And it is only with God that we are able to have even a remote chance of standing against that. And so it is important every day that you clad yourself in that whole armor of God and that you make yourself ready, because it's never going to be easy. There's a reason I say that in my prayer, the bit about we live in a world full of temptations, tragedies, and enemies all about us. That is the truth. We are beset on all sides every day of our lives. Now, though, Psalm 95, a little bit of a shorter one, not quite as long as some of the other ones, but not quite as short as a few of them either. Psalm 95. O come, let us sing unto the Lord. Let us make a joyful noise to the rock of our salvation. Let us come before his presence with thanksgiving, and make a joyful noise unto him with psalms. For the Lord is a great God, and a great King above all gods. In his hand are the deep places of the earth. The strength of the hills is his also. The sea is his, and he made it. And his hands formed the dry land. O come, let us worship and bow down. Let us kneel before our Maker. For he is our God, and we are the people of his pasture and the sheep of his hand. Today, if ye will hear his voice. What's that? Strange. It's almost like it jumped a line there, but... Harden not your heart, as in the provocation, and as in the day of temptation in the wilderness, when your fathers tempted me, proved me, and saw my work. 40 years long was I grieved with this generation, and said, it is a people that do err in the heart, and they have not known my ways, unto whom I swear in my wrath, that they should not enter into my rest. Alrighty, and tomorrow we shall carry on with the Book of Psalms, Psalms 96. Bionic, welcome in. How are you doing today? Alright, here's what we do. Turn our music back on, but I'm gonna turn it down a fair bit. There we go. And we've got some videos for today. Starting off strong with a kick to the face and a smack to the head and then the face. That was like a comedy sketch, her whipping around and smacking him twice. Oh. Okay then. Hope that we all enjoy Bionic's birthday eve. It's a thing this year. So I take it that means that tomorrow is your birthday, Bionic. Happy early birthday in that case. In case we don't see you tomorrow, but... Oh. There it goes. I don't know how he didn't, like, hear it fall forward and immediately be like, something's wrong. 50, you get a week-long celebration. It's a bionic rule. I see. I see. Oh. No. Oh no. Oh no. Oh. Well, that's not good. Don't work until Wednesday night? Well, alright, my friend. That's why you hold on or sit down, bud. Uh-oh. Bro, how'd you not... Hold on, did that fall, like, just ahead of him? Or no, it was already down. It was already down and hanging. It's there while he's driving, but he's looking to the left for God only knows what reason. The question is, will we see anything more stupid than the indoor archer at home? I do remember that one. That will still be quite an accomplishment if we see someone that's dumber than that. This is pretty high up there, I won't lie. Not quite as dumb. This is just someone zoning out while driving, which is a problem that a lot of people have, myself included. I kind of autopilot when I drive. Ooh, what just happened? Oh, nice. That's what happened. Guess that guy was wearing the correct protective gear at least. That's good. Nice. Uh-oh. That's gonna come right off. Yeah, that's not... That's just a bumper, bud.
You okay, Dad?
I like that the kid was just like, I'm gonna keep going. Now nobody gets it. Ah. I mean, you're shaking your head. Hold on. So I get kind of why he's shaking his head, but it's one of those things where it's like, look at where you are in the world, my friend. And you two just whipped up on her on a motorcycle. Like, my man, I get it. I get it that she looks stupid to you because, like, oh yeah, she tossed her bag over the wall. She 100% thought that she was getting robbed. And so she did a smart thing, but he comes out shaking his head like, man, you stupid. And it's like, no, she's not stupid. You're stupid for whipping up on her like that, dude. Like, this is obviously, like, somewhere in South America or Central America by the look of it. That's a very common issue there. Good morning, Living Frost. Welcome in. I'm doing well enough. We're just watching some videos for now. We might play some games here in a bit, but for now we're just chilling and watching
film, right? You guys want to be in this?
Is that a squirrel?
I want to get this on film, right? You guys want to be in this?
Yeah, that's a squirrel. Okay. Oh, I don't know why she screamed like that, but... Oh, there it goes. Where's it coming down?
That was my room full of birds.
Holy moly. How'd all the birds get in? What happened? Imagine getting that scared of a squirrel. I know, right? It's literally meal. It's a free meal. It's like getting scared by a cheeseburger. Ooh, nice. Like, don't get me wrong, a squirrel might spook me if it takes me by surprise, you know, like, if I'm not expecting it and I'm just minding my own business and then suddenly a squirrel comes flying out of nowhere, yeah, it'll startle me for a minute, but if I'm, like, actively aware of it being there, what do you mean you're gonna get scared by it? Ah, now, ooh, uh-oh, that's about to get worse. What was it doing there? That was interesting. Uh-oh. Oh! Uh-oh. Not the tuk-tuk. Oh. Oh. Ah. China. Someone was using their Chinese knockoff Tesla's self-drive mode, I guess. Nicely done, sir. Ah, nice. Just got better. Why would you... Why'd the kid just immediately go to yeet something? Uh-oh. Yeah, I don't know what you were doing, lady. Uh-oh. Oh. Nice. Oh! It would be a Jeep. A Jeep moment, a Jeep moment.
I'm not afraid of scary things. Nothing makes me scared. This haunted house is gonna be nothing.
That was quick. Smacked by a monkey. How rude. Oh. Oh. Well, hi there. Oh. What the heck? What'd you just eat, dude? Oh, he broke it too. Hold on, did you see that? It snapped. He smacked his friend so hard with it, he busted it. Uh-oh. No one was harmed. Not severely, at least. Guarantee you they're a bit roughed up. Uh-oh. Okay, hold on. I do have to point this out, because we don't get the opportunity to very often. While her response isn't that spectacular, I will give her points for the defensive action of putting herself between a perceived potential problem and her child. You don't see that very often. Especially nowadays. So I'm gonna give her points. She is one of the less dumb people in here by a good margin. In fact, I'd say she's less dumb than your average individual that we see on these channels by a good bit. I'm proud of her. Good job. Oh. Oh! Good Lord Almighty. That is sting a little bit. Probably more confused about what just happened? I don't think so. It looked like she largely understood what was going on. Like, she saw him throw it and then something broke. But I'm just... my points I'm giving her are exclusively on the she took a defensive action. Oh. Nice. That was immediate. Okay, we got Grandma on a motorbike. Maybe that's not Grandma. It's hard to tell. Ooh, what you...
Oh my god, it went up my jacket.
That was hilarious. Uh-oh. Nice. Might be time for a new ladder there, bud. Oh, another smack to the face. Oh. Well done. Yeah, that's why you shouldn't get distracted there, driver. Uh-oh. 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 She's lucky that that wasn't way worse. Oh no, oh no, oh no, oh no.
And then they just reinforce their own.
Good lord on my
Yourself, buddy. He ain't no he's not.
What on...
Oh!
You two had like as much visibility as you could. It's two bright red trucks at an intersection with zero like line of visibility impairment. Like you're able to see for a very significant distance either direction on this. How did you two manage this?
He ain't no he's not.
I mean, okay, so it's obviously on this guy because he's the one with the stop sign. Like this guy did nothing wrong. He doesn't have a stop sign, so he is well within his rights to be going. That being said, it looks like speed limit's 35. I think that didn't quite look like he was doing 35. But this dude, 110%, especially with this video. If this guy walks away with any kind of fees that he had to pay, then someone messed up, because that guy, that is 100% on him. Like, that's the most cut and dry case of the other guy was at fault that we've seen on here in a while. Ooh, and then a cat absolutely destroying the entire setup, as they are wont to do. Ooh! Okay then.
Yeah.
Oh! You alright there? You alright, Kayla? Uh-oh, something spooked the horses. Oh.
Yeah, so, did you guys order DoorDash?
Yeah, we did. This is great.
Yeah. Great, isn't it? The driver had some issues,
Okay.
so we're bringing
Here,
the order for you.
here.
Wanted your food to get
Dude.
cold.
You know, at least they're
Give them a
nice.
5-star review, though.
Dude, that is great. Well, guys, thank you.
At least they were nice enough to complete the delivery for you and bring you your stuff. Wow, Chonky went off to lurk. He was late and now he's lurking. This is so sad. Nice. Okay, well, oh, that guy's driving down the wrong way.
Come on, man. Sorry, bro. No, I'm leaving the house soon. I swear to you, bro.
What is up with this audio? Oh, that audio. Ooh. Oh. Uh-oh. We got some road rage going on here. Oh, bud, you're gonna go to jail for that, probably. That's aggravated battery with a vehicle. Like, that's probably gonna be aggravated battery with a deadly weapon charges right there, dude. Don't do that. Don't road rage, chat. Don't road rage. It's not worth it. You will get a way heftier sentence, most likely, than what you're anticipating you will. Because in the moment, it doesn't seem like you're doing anything that's that violent. Guys of the law, that's the same as, like, me coming at you with, like, a baseball bat and threatening to kill you. Like, and I start swinging on you. You know? They're gonna treat it the same way. That's assault. That's assault with a deadly weapon because you could easily kill someone. Don't do it. It's not worth it. You will get jail time.
Stop it, you stupid.
It's a bird, lady. Come on. That chicken couldn't kill you if its life depended on it. I never understand that. That's why it's also giving you... Ooh, nice.
It's a car starting up.
It's a car starting up. Oh. Just got bodied by a play pool.
Do you want to go to the pub?
Huh?
Why are you trying to get me to go to the pub?
Do you want to go to the pub, I'm saying?
Yeah, but why?
Because I want to go to the pub.
To do what?
Just have a drink and be quiet.
That's the most English child I've ever witnessed. Next, she's going to be wanting to work in the coal mines. I just want to go to the pub and have a drink and be quiet. It's like, oh. Well, I see she's engaging in the most English of activities at an early age. She's getting started. Ooh. Oh dear, Lord Almighty, dude, you were... China, so the man probably said something wrong about Mao when the car attempted to assassinate him.
Yeah, you can't reach your toes.
This is as far as I can go.
I can't reach my toes either.
Blake, welcome in. You're happy to report that the announcement from last week from the Shelby was not an electric car. How good. What a good outcome.
Oh my god,
Oh. Well, that was unfortunate. I was wondering why she was wearing those, like, slip-on shoes. Oh. The ducks want a haircut. Yeah, that white one wants a high fade. You're gonna have to... I like he's carrying one. This one wouldn't comply, so he had to pick that one up and take him with him. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. The baby is loose.
Wait.
Oh, nice. Good job. Oh, no. Oh, no. Ooh. Oh, look at that. Someone spilled their noodles. Oh no. Oh no, it's a dump truck or something coming onto a ferry. Uh-oh. Nice. You're an
Please help me
idiot.
with the dishes.
Hey, Mommy. You're 40. And I'm 4.
Okay.
And so you are older than me. And so I think you can do it by yourself. I believe in you. I believe in you, Mom.
Okay. I have to give points to the kid. That was a heck of a parry right there. That's strong. I believe in you, Mom. You can do it.
I can do the dishes myself.
Yeah.
That kid's a smart aleck right there. I like it though. That was funny. Man tried to overtake a tractor and failed. Oh no. Oh no. Oh no. Oh boy. It wasn't moving. How do you hit a non-moving vehicle?
To make a bike
yeah, there's literally
right there. And I got these guys.
Alright, bud, chill out.
Come on, guys.
He'll go far. Yeah, that kid's gonna go far in life. Buddy, where are you going? I'm so glad that you circled the do not enter sign. I wouldn't have known otherwise.
Look, big team here.
Oh.
Big line that way.
Oh
line
no.
That way, and on Collier. And I don't know. Like, what are we doing? Are they just gonna lift this car up? Oh.
It would appear that is in fact the plan, is to move the vehicle. Ah, nice, bud. Uh-oh. Yeah, I was gonna say, that doesn't look so hot. There they go. Both just immediately ate it. Uh-oh. No one was harmed, but that guy was definitely fired. Oh. That's not good. Get out the way! That's bold of that cat. That dog could eat that cat. Oh. Sir? Oh, nice. Sniped by the fish.
Oh, you okay, man?
No one was harmed, but someone was fired. Yep.
No, I really don't.
Oh. What a jerk! At the foot doctor now. See you later. All right, Chem Spook. God bless you, my friend. Hopefully that will go well.
Come on, do it.
What? I don't know why she thought a stick was gonna hold her up, but that serves you right, stupid. What do you think you're doing, parkour? Ah, nice. Right into the tree. Okay, now hold on. So at first I was going to excuse this because I saw the backpack and the shortness, and I assumed this is a kid. Yep. Looks like a child. Look how he's dressed. Look how he's behaving. That guy's got a beard. That ain't no child. That's not a school kid goofing around. That's a grown adult. What an idiot. Ay, ay, ay. Aww. Oh dear. That rope must have been made in India. Ah, an iguana. That poor dude. Okay, I'm confused. So I'm confused. What did she think was going to happen? You tied your hair up, you braided it, then you cut it, and you're shocked that the hair has been cut when you've cut it. What was she expecting here? What did she think was going to happen when she cut her hair? That it was just not going to be cut? That it was magically going to be cut to the exact right length when she didn't do it correctly? I don't get it. I don't get it. Why are you surprised? You did the thing and then the thing happened. You cut the hair and the hair was cut. Oh, bro, you should have been paying attention. Nice. What you get? That's what you get. Uh-oh.
So C9.
This man might get himself a whole lot of Gatorade.
Right.
Or he'll get nothing at all.
Oh no!
You smashed on the window.
Roll the window up.
It's made ice. Hey bud. Also, I'm gonna be real honest. I don't understand how you get to that level of fat. Like, this guy, he's bigger than I am. By, like, a good margin. He looks like he's probably double my weight. I literally, like, until recently, because I started going to the gym again, like, just this month. I for like the last 2 years, have almost not gone outside. I have not done hardly any physical activity. I've streamed and gamed, and I'm not that fat. I don't get it. I don't get how you get to that level of fat. I don't know what you have to do. I see people that are like regularly a fair bit larger than I am, and I don't know how you've managed it. Because I do not eat healthy. Those of you that know my diet, like, my diet has been garbage for a while. I'm finally starting to clean it up. Like, this month, I've started cleaning up my diet and going to the gym again, because I'm tired of being this way. But even at, like, the peak of it, when I wasn't going to the gym, when I wasn't going outside, when I wasn't interacting with people, when I was eating nothing but, like, fast food and frozen food, I still never got that big. I don't get it. I don't understand how you do it. I just don't. Like, what life choices do you have to make to get there? Like, I'm closer to this guy's build than I am that other guy.
Some of them do on a dang old human man, boy. I tell you what, I get a goddamn superhuman, innovative, animated dang old rubber, so that anything you say is ricocheting back at you, man. Devastating more than ever, demonstrating how to get a dang old audience of feeling like it's letter hay. Faded like a farmer's tan, man. I tell you what, here's getting worked up, complain hot like propane, boom, how we're spitting them facts, man, spinning them rhymes like a dang old tornado, jib jabbing like it just ain't no thing. Why be a god and not a dang old king?
All right, that was thank you, Bionic. Guys, was that a wee bit loud on your end? Because I'm gonna be real honest, looking at my audio mixer just now, that didn't leave the red. That was red the entire time. It was kinda loud. I'll have to see about turning the volume down. I don't...
создали проблему мирового масштаба, и это, конечно, поражает. Уроженка Перми, Галкина, я не знаю.
I've turned it down by 3 decibels. We'll see how that sounds next time someone does something like that. Alright. So, we watched our funny videos. Now it's time for the nerdy videos. You know how it works around here. I can't
This video
help
was
myself.
made possible by Skillshare. Learn for free for 2 months by being one of the first 1,000 to sign up at skl.sh/wendover9. The United States Navy is traditionally known for its military might. It is by far the largest and potentially most capable navy in the world thanks to its innumerable aircraft carriers, destroyers, and submarines. But beyond those, and beyond all the cruisers and patrol boats and other combat ships, there are 2 more that lurk in the shadows of the 490-ship fleet, the USNS Mercy and Comfort. These are America's hospital ships. Hospital ships are more or less a forgotten relic of a time when wars were far deadlier and the world was far larger. During those times, when fighting a war abroad, just like today, one had to consider where casualties would go, but unlike today, there were no capabilities to quickly fly injured personnel away from a battlefield. One had to treat close to the conflict, and for that, the most viable option was often to bring a hospital ship to the fight. These ships were once so significant that, when nations came together to write the Geneva Conventions, defining the rules of war, hospital ships were a significant focus. They specifically denote these as any that specifically and solely work to assist the wounded or sick, with the important distinction that they cannot carry any arms or ammunition. These ships also must be painted white with red crosses to identify themselves, but assuming these requirements are met, they are officially classed as a hospital ship. Those with this classification cannot, under the Geneva Conventions, be attacked or fired upon. This was all plenty useful at the time the Geneva Conventions were signed, but today, land-based warfare is increasingly obsolete, and it just doesn't make sense to float a hospital to a conflict zone when field hospitals are more capable and medical evacuation is easy. That's why only 8 nations' navies still include hospital ships. Most of these are rather small and primarily deployed for humanitarian purposes, but the US's 2 hospital ships, meanwhile, are massive. They're the size of cruise ships and comparable in capability to the largest land-based hospitals. Each holds 1,000 hospital beds, including 80 intensive care beds. In comparison, the entire
Combat
state
evacuation
of Maine
is easy. I know, that's one of those things, that's why I was going, because this is very much one of those things where he's going very armchair general right now, where it's like, well, obviously today, because of the implementation of certain new technologies, it's very easy to actually do that, and warfare on the ground is actually irrelevant now. It's like, okay, bud. Okay, sure. Yeah, okay. Tell me you've never served in the military and or seen any kind of armed conflict without telling me that you've never been in the military or seen any kind of armed conflict. Because you've just done so excellently.
Has 1,061 total and 64
Tell that to
ICU.
troops on the ground. Tell that to the pilots that have to fly medevac. Tell that to the fact that the U.S. Air Force has a very specific... Like, the U.S. Air Force doesn't have very many special forces units. One of our special forces units in the United States Air Force is literally existing for one reason and one reason only. Their job is to be the guys that go in with medevac and keep medevac safe long enough to get people out. There's a special forces unit solely to ensure that combat evacuation can occur. Potentially. There's a reason that when a U.S. medevac unit is moving in, do you know what goes with it? A-10 Warthogs. You know, that gun that we built an airplane around. We send those in, not one, but multiple, at 2 at minimum, along with pararescue special forces units. It's not an easy thing to do. This guy's talking out his butt because he's never, like I said, never been in the military and has never seen an armed conflict. So he's very much, I love his videos. He talks about a lot of good stuff. That was the dumbest statement he's ever made in any of the videos I've ever seen. That was just uneducated.
Beds.
That was
to
rough.
Have an entire state's worth of medical facilities available anywhere in the world is an immensely useful strategic power, but not entirely for the purpose of actually treating US soldiers.
It is
within
for that
the military.
purpose.
The Comfort and Mercy are officially classified as flexible deterrent options. That's to say, they're an option for show of force. In wartime, sending a ship with capacity for 1,000 patients sends a message that the US is willing to accept an immense amount of casualties. That may or may not be true, but the message is there.
It's true.
In peacetime, parading a hospital ship around the world for humanitarian missions both fosters goodwill for the US military and also shows countries the capabilities of the US's military health system. The effectiveness of these ships as flexible deterrent options could be debatable, but in the military's mind, this is the purpose behind these ships. They're an option for deterrence or escalation. That's part of the reason why they've seen so little deployment to combat zones. That's just not the primary purpose.
Okay, but that's where you're wrong. It's the case that every single combat zone that the United States has served in the last, 60 years has been in a region where there was no way to safely deploy one of these. Or no way to deploy one in general. How are you... pray tell, good sir, when I've got men deep in Iraq, the desert of Iraq, where is this going to park? Please tell me. Do tell me, sir. Why? How? Am I going to drive this up onto the banks of the, of the coastline? Am I going to plop it in the Dead Sea? What am I going to do? Am I going to find a particularly large pond and put it there? No, you absolute mouth breather. This is painful. This is hard to watch so far. I've never had one of his videos struggle this much for me. Normally, I just click one of his videos and I'm like, I am learning things. So far, this is rough. What did he expect us to do in Afghanistan? Put tracks on this thing and drive it into the mountains? My man, we didn't deploy them because the reason that the areas we've been fighting in, there wasn't any way to deploy them. So we had to do field hospitals. I guarantee you, ask any U.S. Army soldier, any combat vet deployed to Afghanistan, when they had to get someone patched up, would they have rather gone to a crappy little tent fort that they had put up in the area? You know, a little forward base that had like one half-trained medic who, you know, just recently deployed. Would they rather have gone there or to one of these things? 'Cause I guarantee you, they would choose this. If this could have been the option, this is where they would have wanted to go, not to some forward operating base where it was barely sanitary and there was minimally trained staff with minimal equipment. We're 3 minutes in and I've paused for longer than I've played the video.
Each ship has only seen one deployment primarily treating casualties of war. The Mercy to Operation Desert Shield and Storm in 1990, and the Comfort to the Iraq War in...
Wow, you wouldn't say! The two times that they've been deployed in the last 60 years since they've been built was to the two conflicts that they could access the region. My God! I am shocked! I never would have imagined it. You mean that this thing went into a watered air? It went into the waters off of a country where it could access the U.S. military forces it was helping? My God! Revolutionary! Next you'll tell me that the sun is coming up tomorrow. Oh, I can't believe it. What's next?
2002.
My God,
For the rest
dude,
of their
this
30-year
is...
histories, they have spent their time deployed on humanitarian missions to
Oh my God. During the rest of their 30-year existence, they've only been sent to impoverished nations. So you mean that the two times in their 30 years of existing, the two times where the U.S. military was involved in state-on-state conflict, where the ship could actually get to the area, they were there? But outside of those two occurrences, where we were in state-on-state conflicts in regions that they could access, they didn't go to those non-state-on-state conflicts in regions that they couldn't access? Dear God! There must be some kind of through line here, some kind of logical system or thought process on why they couldn't have been there. I wonder. It's obviously that we don't use them for that. What kind of logical conclusions is this guy jumping to? Oh my God. We're 3 minutes and 42 seconds into the video. We've been on the video for like 12 minutes. 3 minutes of it have been it playing. The rest of it has been me going, huh? You what?
disasters or impoverished nations, or in reduced operating status at their home ports in San Diego
my
and
God,
Norfolk.
dude.
While during active service, the Mercy houses well over 1,000 crew, most of its time is spent in port in that reduced operating status. At such times, the massive ships will house just 70 crew members who will keep it ready to go at a moment's notice. By the nature of their service, expediency of deployment is key. Therefore, they're designed so that they can go from reduced operating status to leaving San Diego or Norfolk in just 5 days. But while they can leave quickly, that doesn't mean they can necessarily get to their destination quickly. The Mercy and Comfort are both converted oil tankers that originally launched in 1975 and 1976 respectively. Oil tankers are not designed for speed, as it's just not necessary,
You
so the
don't
ships can
say.
only travel at about 20 miles or 31 kilometers per hour. Compare that to a
Turbos, I'm
Nimitz-class
glad
aircraft
that you're having a
carrier,
great
which,
time.
at almost twice the size, can travel at 35 miles or 56 kilometers per hour. If there was, say, a disaster in Sri Lanka, it would take 5 days to get the ship into full operating status and then 20 to sail all the way to the Indian Ocean. By that time, nearly a month after the disaster, the trauma phase of medical response would be largely done. This is likely a reason why a majority of the ship's deployments have been near the US in the Americas.
That's also because the idea of a U.S. military hospital is to serve the U.S. military. It's not a primarily humanitarian vehicle. We don't build it to rapidly respond to an incident in Sri Lanka. If it's going to Sri Lanka, that means Sri Lanka is about to be invaded by the US military. It doesn't need to be fast. If it's going somewhere that's really far away, that's because we're invading that area.
Of those, many have been long-planned humanitarian missions to provide advanced healthcare to areas without it. These are, of course, incredibly impactful for those they serve, but overall, the ships just aren't designed for super-fast response to critical crises.
Yes,
the
because
very
it's not a
size
critical
that slows it
crisis thing.
does, however, have a purpose. Beyond just allowing for a massive capacity, the ships are stable enough that, even when floating, it is possible to conduct most types of surgery in their 12 operating rooms. There are exceptions. The floating platform doesn't allow for open heart surgery, but still, the possibility of conducting advanced medical interventions at sea is impressive. There are, however, more issues related to the origins of the ships. You see, hospitals are quite tricky facilities to design. Small and subtle differences can mean the difference between life and death, and so the accumulated experience of hundreds of years has resulted in explicit knowledge on how hospitals should be built. One of the myriad principles is that movement bottlenecks should be minimized. That leads to features like wide hallways and doors, but it also means that, as much as possible, the use of elevators should be avoided. The technique to achieve that is, of course, to make hospitals wider. You want as much as possible on the same floor so that there is as little need as possible to put patients in elevators when transferring them from one area to the other. If, for example, a patient takes a turn for the worse and needs to be rushed to an operating room, the 90 seconds waiting for and riding the elevator can mean the difference between life and death. This also has an implication on overall hospital efficiency. For example, you ideally want radiology rather close to and on the same floor as the emergency room, since many patients often need X-ray imaging right when they present to the ER. The further away it is, the longer it takes to get a patient to and from there, and then the longer they spend in the ER department overall, and the more beds are needed to serve the same number of patients in the ER. These principles are all why hospitals tend to be wide.
Yes.
Even in places with incredible density and high real estate costs like New York, most hospitals are wider than they are tall. In all, hospital design is a puzzle where all the elements that patients most commonly are transferred between need to be as close in travel time to each other. Looking at the outside of the USNS Mercy and Comfort, you would think that they would properly follow this principle of width before height, but unfortunately, during their conversion, legacies of their past lives were left behind.
Okay. I'm gonna head him off at the pass at this, because I think he's about to say something that's going to send me on another tirade. I swear to all that is good in this world, if the next statements out of his mouth are something along the lines of, well, they left narrow hallways, and it's obvious that there's a lot of elevator need, and there's a lot of going up and down. My man, it is a boat! I'm sorry, you can't just build a boat 5 miles wide. You can't do it. This has to settle into a mid-space. Yes, there are things that we have learned about how to build hospitals to make them more effectively. This is a boat! My good sir, it is a boat! B-O-A-T, boat, the thing that floats? Yeah. You can only change so much about it before it stops working. I swear to God, if that's the route he's going.
You see, tanker ships, on the inside, are not just one big empty hull filled with oil. They were when they first emerged, many years ago, but the issue there was that, with a slight tilt forwards, backwards, or to a side, oil would start sloshing to that side, which leads to more weight on that side, which leads to more tilt, which leads to more oil sloshing, and so on and so forth until a ship capsized. That was clearly an issue, but one easily solved by creating bulkheads both laterally and longitudinally so that oil couldn't slosh around. The problem, though, is that these were left in the Comfort and Mercy. There are no doors between bulkheads on lower floors. Therefore, if one needs to get a patient from here to here, they have to be brought up an elevator, across the top deck, and back down again. This leads to huge movement issues, making the ship's effectiveness as a hospital more limited. That's just one large example, but there are plenty of other smaller issues with the ship designs that make them...
So, that is a lot less worse than where I was afraid he was going. That being said, sir, it is still a boat. There's only so much you can modify in a ship without ripping it in half. Bulkheads are not something you just easily redesign around. It's not that simple. If it were that simple, they wouldn't have done that.
Less effective than they could be.
There's also the fact that you have to take into account those lower areas that he was just referring to, down here. The closer you get to the bottom of the ship, the more you're going to be encountering engines, electric, the pumping systems, everything that makes the ship a ship and lets it sail is going to be down in these lower areas. So, I get it. This would be nice if they could go from here straight to here, but it ain't how it works. It's not that simple. I wish that they could.
More limited. That's
but
just
these
one
are not
large...
purpose-built ships. Faithful, welcome in. One moment, let me... There we go. What'd you get?
My name is now Olga.
Oh, you're Olga now, Faithful. I see.
Olga strong. Olga got big muscles, bigger than most men. Be jealous. Olga can snap a tree in half in one hit.
Faithful, you okay? You alright there? Olga? I'm sorry. That's your name now, yeah? Olga? Sorry. You gotta be faster than that, Rebozo.
But there are plenty of other smaller issues with the ship designs that make them less effective than they could be. They are, after all, nearly 50 years old, and the Navy was already starting to plan their retirement decades ago. Their original cost, including both the ship purchase and conversion, was $275 million each, which may seem like a lot, but this is the same Navy that spends billions on single destroyers. A couple $100 million is a bargain for a ship of this size, and yearly, its operating costs are rather insignificant in the context of the Navy. It's the kind of asset that makes sense to keep around just in case it becomes useful, as it does every once in a while when disaster strikes in the US or abroad, but also one that the US is likely to be unwilling to invest in upgrading. A dedicated purpose-built hospital ship of this size would be an enormous step up from these, but when given the choice between a new destroyer or a new hospital ship, the Navy's going to pick the destroyer. It's for that reason why the Comfort and Mercy have stayed in service for so long, and why they're likely to stay in service until the last day possible. They may not be of enormous use in the Navy's eyes, but to the thousands that they treat, they're a symbol of hope in tough times, and until they're incapable of helping anyone, they serve a crucial purpose. Skills aren't only things that help you in work and school.
This was a hard video to get through, I'm not gonna lie. And I've never had that problem with any of this guy's videos before. This one's from 4 years ago. So this would be... No, that wouldn't even be before the would that be before the start of the Ukrainian war? I don't know. I don't know if the Russo-Ukrainian war had started by then. If it had started, and he still was making those claims that he made at the start about Medivac and whatnot, that was. If that's the case, that's even worse. That's even more rough than I thought. But I don't know. That crash out at the beginning was comedy. I was incredulous. I'm still a little incredulous. I can't believe he said some of the things that he said. I can only assume, like I said, tell me that you've never served in the military or witnessed a conflict in person without telling me you were never in the military or witnessed a conflict in person. because he did so very, very excellently at the start of the video. That first, 4 minutes was brutal. So, yes and no, Bionic. I get what he's trying to say. It's just everything that he said up until this point that makes it so brutally hard to take as, anything meaningful. Because the way he got to this point was the most circuitous and stupid route that he could have taken. And he made some very, very, very bold-faced statements along the way that did not help his argument at all. I get it. I'm in favor of the US making hospital ships as well. New ones, purpose-built ones, rather than just converted oil ships. But I also get why they don't do it. It's not their primary concern. And he's over here talking about oh, well, they spend billions on a single destroyer. Yes, a single destroyer that could destroy literally any warship ever produced before its existence. The ships that he was showing are some of the most advanced vessels ever produced. Those things are one step away from being a starship. All they need is an engine that could take them into space, and they would be able to do it. It's a heck of a thing for that to be his criticism of a military branch. You know, those things that governments design to fight other governments. And his complaint was that their humanitarian program isn't as good as it should be. It's okay, dude, look. For the Navy, most naval ships are equipped with a medical facility. Now, they're not the high-end ones. They're not as nice as having a purpose or having a hospital ship. But the hospital ships fill their roles decently. Like I said, I too would be in favor of the United States Navy having a few purpose-built ones that are modern and are well-designed for it. It's just the stuff that he's been saying is... The way he got there was just painful. It was painful. That was rough.
China in 1983 was the version of China that made its transformation into what it is today so very remarkable. That's to say, it was poor and it was underdeveloped. Its GDP per capita was $302, making for a ranking of 161st in the world, below the Central African Republic, Uganda, and the Comoros. This made the country rather unattractive as an expansion market for multinational enterprises. The population was massive, sure, but it didn't have a whole lot more going for it from the perspective of corporate executives. And ultimately, even if companies wanted to enter the Chinese market, for the longest time they just simply couldn't. It was one of the most closed-off economies in the world. It was a centrally planned socialist economy, incompatible with the capitalist ones from the West, and there were barely even diplomatic relations with Europe and America, let alone economic ones. So it's no surprise that, before the 1980s, no Western auto manufacturer had entered the Chinese market. Change started after Deng Xiaoping took power. He kicked off the process of economic reform, leading to the process of opening up, leading to the Chinese government inviting a few Western auto manufacturers to form joint ventures with Chinese car companies, leading to the first Chinese-made Volkswagen rolling off the line in Shanghai in 1983. This was fortuitous. VW had been coaxed into forming a joint venture with the Shanghai Automotive Industry Corporation, and it happened at the absolute perfect moment. These same economic reforms that made it possible for VW to enter the market kicked off the transformation into the middle-income behemoth China is today, and as disposable incomes grew and the Chinese middle class expanded, so too did the country's car sales. Since then, more so than any Western auto company, VW has thrived on China sales. In fact, by the early 2000s, the country accounted for half of their global profit. It was the group's single largest market. Manufacturing costs were cheap, sales were numerous, and profit margins were enormous. At least until recently. For decades, total sales in China were rising while the group's market share largely held steady. In 2019, sales hit nearly 4 million units, but then the bottom fell out. COVID can explain these years, sure, but not these ones, as VW has struggled to hit 3 million unit sales, and in the first 3 quarters of 2024, only mustered 2 million. Across the 39 VW Group factories in China, earnings are down about 50% from the high set in 2015, while it's looking even worse for certain brands within the group. Skoda, a Czech automaker owned by VW since 1991, has watched its sales absolutely tank across the 2020s. A disaster for a brand that's tailored designs and even entire models specifically to appeal to the Chinese consumer. But what makes this a true crisis for the world's largest auto company is that things are bad beyond China too. This factory in Brussels, Belgium has been building Volkswagen since the 1950s and Audis since 2006. But now, on account of slumping Audi Q8 e-tron sales, VW has announced the factory will close its doors at the end of February 2025. Without a viable buyer for the factory, thousands of jobs are set to vanish entirely.
Okay, hold on. What's going on here? What's this protest got to do with anything? Why is there a
Palestinian the last plant to close
flag?
Either, as Volkswagen announced that it would also potentially close 3 additional
Our
factories
factory is closing
Germany
down.
in
Free
an attempt at
Palestine.
massive overhaul, something the company has simply never done in its home country.
I'm confused.
All this,
Are
the
they
massive slump
claiming
in
the
sales,
factory
the
for the
unprecedented response to
Palestinians?
right
Like,
size
what's going
and
on?
stabilize, and the developing domestic distrust coming from it has seen the group's C-suite shuffled, German factory workers on strike, and pundits declaring this as potentially the beginning of the end of Volkswagen's global dominance. But perhaps most concerningly, there's reason to believe that China is just the canary in the coal mine. The graph speaks for itself. Here's VW's market share in China. It's in free fall. And here's the market share of BYD, China's newly minted automotive behemoth. Back in 2020, its market share sat at 1.8%. Today, it's at 11%, making it not only the new largest auto company in China, but also the world's largest EV manufacturer, usurping even Tesla. BYD's explosive growth was spurred, like many things in China, by a combination of central planning and free market economics. Around 2020, Chinese governments of all levels, national, provincial, and local, started rolling out a deluge of incentives for EVs and plug-in hybrids. In Shanghai, for example, the municipal government requires car buyers to first purchase a license plate as a method of restricting the number of cars hitting the road. These are sold via a monthly auction where demand always far outstrips supply. Only about 5 or 6% of bidders typically get a plate, pushing prices up to between $12,000 and $14,000. But for a number of years, EV buyers could get a license plate for free. An absolutely massive incentive, considering some Chinese EVs now cost less than a license plate in Shanghai. There's also been a litany of buyer rebates, sales tax exemptions, infrastructure funding, direct support of automakers, and more that's totaled up to an estimated $230 billion in funding for EVs by the Chinese government between 2009 and 2023. Whereas elsewhere EV incentives were merely focused on making them price competitive with internal combustion cars, in China they were often significantly cheaper, so it's no surprise their sales exploded. But of course, that just explains why China transitioned to EVs so quickly, not why BYD usurped VW. The explanation for that is that, well, BYD's cars were just simply better. In recent years, VW's entry-level EV in the Chinese market was its ID.3, which it was selling for about $23,000.
Rebozo, I'll let you do it this time.
This model boasts a 0 to 50 km/h time of 3 seconds and a
Since
certified range of 450
your
kilometers. In the US or Europe, this would seem like a steal relative to other EVs, but in China, for half that price, about $11,800, a buyer could instead get the upper trim of the entry-level BYD EV, the Seagull. This has a slower 4.9 seconds 0 to 50 kilometer time and a shorter 405 kilometer range, but it's not too far off. And there are plenty of other BYD EVs selling for well below the ID.3's price, yet boasting better specs. The BYD Dolphin Night version has 500.
I guess he's wandered off, so I shall do it anyway then. How unfortunate. How unfortunate for Rebozo.
Alright, so I saw Soldier run in. I believe it was Kayla who clapped him, and then she ran south. And I was busy scrubbing balls in the Never mind.
Oh wow.
How is it even in other people's clips with Rico? It's Rico saying something out of context.
Balls. I can't make this sound.
Something sus.
Better. Nothing.
Rico was scrubbing his balls.
You can hear all the keyboard tippy taps. Do you want me to set a sound gate? Because I could theoretically set a sound gate to prevent it from picking that up.
20 kilometers of range, yet sells for under $18,000, for example. And the Volkswagen Group isn't doing much better on the other end of the spectrum either. The group's two primary luxury brands, Audi and Porsche, are each struggling as well. Audi sold fewer than 15,000 EVs to China in the first 9 months of 2024, and Porsche sales are in such free fall that the company is closing a third of their dealerships in the country. There is a market for higher-end Western EVs in China, but
I'm aware.
Absolutely
a few people have mentioned
Tesla.
it.
The company convinced the government to allow them to build their own dedicated factory in China. The first time ever a foreign auto company has been allowed to enter the Chinese market outright, not as part of a joint venture with a Chinese firm. Now, Western brands typically are able to command a price premium in China. They're often viewed as luxury goods. VW doesn't necessarily need to beat its Chinese competitors on price for equivalently spec'd cars, as historically consumers have perceived the Western brands as just simply better. Until recently, that is. Even if the ID.3 or other VW EVs might match or beat BYD equivalents on range or acceleration or charging time, the day-to-day experience of owning a VW EV is, reportedly, just worse. They lose in the details, and nowhere is that more true than with software. Now, up until the 2010s really, car manufacturing was largely an exercise in industrial expertise, with companies like Toyota, Volkswagen, and General Motors vying for the world number one spot in total sales on account of their ability to produce durable, dependable, fixable hardware. Then came Tesla, Apple CarPlay, lane assist, heads-up displays, and a myriad of other features running from safety to in-car entertainment that required cars capable of computing. Suddenly, a software revolution. For legacy car makers, such rapid change was jarring, but ultimately was such that they could at least keep up with through outsourcing to smaller, more nimble software companies. Making Revolution more manageable too was the fact that internal combustion engine cars simply don't require the same level of software sophistication as an electric vehicle. A touchscreen infotainment system doesn't necessarily need to interact with or be aware of a lane assist or automatic braking safety feature, for instance. So to keep up, Volkswagen at first went the route of other legacy car makers. Contract out the software, focus on their core competency, the hardware. But that changed in 2015 with Dieselgate.
I feel you,
the scandal involving an emissions control
system
designed to fraudulently manipulate the results of emissions tests. As part of the ensuing legal settlement, the company invested $2 billion into building out the Electrify America brand of EV fast chargers in North America, and then $40 billion into their EV program. And as for the software that ran those EVs, and their entire fleet of vehicles for that matter, well, VW was going to do that too. In 2019, the company announced that they no longer look for software suppliers, but they'd be one. No longer would they mirror the strategy of other legacy automakers. They'd take the Tesla route. They'd be a car company and a tech company. The vision was straightforward enough. They'd radically simplify, and there would no longer be any black boxes that the company itself couldn't understand under their hoods. Each of their cars, leadership noted, were using some 70 separate computers, and across VW Group's brands, there were 8 separate software architectures.
Good Lord
Now
Almighty.
the company wanted to cut those numbers to 3 computers per car and 1 operating system across the entire group. While the concept was simple, the undertaking was massive, as VW Group didn't even have a built-out software branch. So they started from the ground floor, founding a software and technology company now called Cariad here, outside of Munich at an Audi plant, with a host of additional offices extending as far as Seattle to house its 3,000 new employees. Now, no Volkswagen brand would have to rely on outside software. They'd have one in-house operating system serving their purposes alone, just as soon as they built it. This was a first. A legacy car manufacturer so boldly embracing software.
It is a good place to start.
GM hadn't made such a move, neither had Ford, nor Toyota, nor had Honda or Hyundai. Neither had even Tesla, who shared the most similar approach to software, as Tesla from its founding was a software developer, making software a core competency from the beginning. But the problems were immediate. While Volkswagen was able to begin delivering certain trims of its first modern electric vehicle, the ID.3, in China and Europe nearly on time, the buyers were asked to patiently wait for software updates before their infotainment systems and heads-up displays would be fully operational. For the company's first electric car release in the much-anticipated ID series, it was a massive blunder, as Reddit and YouTube became replete with ID.3 rants and painful summaries of continued software snafus. Making matters worse in the same year, software difficulties also delayed the release of the popular VW Golf, as the company simply couldn't ensure network safety in some markets for over-the-air updates. While the launch of the electric ID.4 in North America went a bit smoother, software soon proved the vehicle's Achilles heel, as about a third of recall notices on the vehicle could be attributed to software problems. Unfortunately for the VW group, CARIAD's issues were more structural than simply stumbling out of the starting blocks. Issues for the ID group are largely attributed to CARIAD's most rudimentary product, E3 1.1, the platform designed for the group's mass-market EVs. But CARIAD in 2019 was also tasked with the concurrent development of two other platforms, E3 1.2, a step up in complexity designed for higher-end EVs from the likes of Audi and Porsche, as well as E3 2.0, a software product that would usher in autonomous driving for the group in the late 2020s. CARIAD struggled with these products too, leading to delays on Porsche's EV Macan and more recently Audi's Q8 e-tron, once again on account of software. While Bentley, counting on E3 2.0 to usher the brand into its EV era, has already announced that its full transition away from internal combustion isn't likely until the mid-2030s, in part because of uncertainty over whether CARIAD can deliver a reliable product. From the beginning, CARIAD was founded to become a central strength of the group, so it's been central in both near and long-term product roadmaps. And because it has failed so spectacularly up until this point, it's left the entire group, from mass market to luxury, in a state of uncertainty. And beyond the operational implications, the end result is still not what it needs to be. Anecdotally, the reviews indicate that while VW software might be improving, it's still far behind that of BYD or Tesla. So now the company is in damage limitation mode. Along with the factory shutdowns, it's aiming to cut pay by 10% across the board, and has already finalized a plan to do so with managerial staff, largely through a reduction in bonuses. To avoid further factory closures and pay cuts though, the company needs to make some bold moves. It's starting by trying to find the next China, and VW believes one prime emerging market opportunity is here in Brazil.
Yeah. Oh.
This is, in fact, where
Brazil?
VW opened its first international factory in the 1950s,
That's where you're
and today
targeting.
boasts 4 factories, but the company still believes there's more juice to be squeezed. It's aiming for 40% market growth by 2027 by introducing 15 new electric and flex fuel models to Brazil. At the end of the day, though, VW still thinks it can salvage the Chinese market. All they need to do is follow the lead of the new market leaders. After plenty of public rhetoric on how they won't get coaxed into a price war with the Chinese manufacturers, VW has been coaxed into a price war with the Chinese manufacturers and dropped prices across its lineup to build back market share. Recently, it also introduced the ID Code concept, a fully electric vehicle equipped for fully autonomous driving, developed specifically for the Chinese market with the kind of techie, futuristic features that have helped propel BYD sales. This includes a self-cleaning mode where the car uses UV light to purify the air, and a built-in robot vacuum cleaner to clean surfaces. VW also took a 4.99% ownership stake in Chinese EV startup XPeng. By collaborating with an established in-market brand, Volkswagen says it will cut production time by 30% and production costs by 40% on the 2 models it plans to introduce with XPeng in 2026. But ultimately, if VW EVs are going to be competitive anywhere, they're going to have to get good at software. In July, Volkswagen announced a joint venture with American EV darling Rivian, known for breaching the SUV and recreational vehicle markets. The initial $1 billion investment will be followed by another $4.8 billion in the next several years, all dedicated to research and development and the integration of Rivian software into Volkswagen vehicles, set to launch by 2027. Rivian pioneered what's called zonal architecture, basically splitting up a car's network to reduce wiring and hardware and its interdependence on other systems, and the plans are to implement it first into Volkswagen's luxury brands, Porsche, Audi, and eventually downmarket to VW vehicles themselves. The transition towards electric vehicles has been a difficult moment for the old guard of the auto industry. Few would have predicted that a Silicon Valley startup could explode into the world's most valuable auto company, but then Tesla did. The incumbent manufacturers eventually took this threat seriously, recognizing that it's now only a question of how long the transition towards EV takes, not whether it'll happen. But suddenly BYD has become, effectively, the second Tesla, the second EV manufacturer to achieve explosive growth. And unlike in the case of Tesla and the West, as BYD rose, so too did a litany of other smaller Chinese EV manufacturers. It's a far more diversified market than was seen in the US and Europe during the big growth years of Tesla. That's to say, the challenge to the incumbents this time is even stronger. Perhaps the one upside for Volkswagen is that it's having to confront this challenge now. Chinese EV manufacturers are just starting to ramp up exports. The cost of these EVs is just so much lower than competitors that they're sure to quickly entrench in markets around the world. In response, the EU set tariffs that cut into this cost advantage, alleging that the prices are made possible by significant government subsidies. The US, under similar logic, set a 100% tariff, making it effectively impossible for Chinese auto companies to compete in the market. But tariffs
I really
are not a
don't
wall.
appreciate
They're
the
just a
close-up
hurdle,
of
and with time, the Chinese companies will find a way. Already, BYD is pivoting its Europe strategy to hybrids,
Grandpa doesn't
as
look
these
so
are
great
not
whenever the
covered by
camera
the
gets that
tariffs.
close. He doesn't look great in
VW,
general, but it
one
doesn't,
could say,
doesn't
has
hold
the
up very well when it gets
opportunity
close.
to figure out how to meaningfully compete against Chinese EVs in China before they have to do so across the globe. All the other auto companies, without as significant a China presence, are not facing these same challenges, so they're not able to put their products to the test in the same way. On the outside, EVs look like cars. They are, of course, and in many cases their bodies are identical to those of gas-powered equivalents. But what makes this industry transition so tumultuous is that, on the inside, the factors that influence competency in EV design and manufacturing are so fundamentally different than those that went into internal combustion cars. Over a century of institutional knowledge within companies like VW is now almost worthless. Perhaps the biggest value they retain is just their brand. There's every reason to believe that successful internal combustion vehicle manufacturers won't turn into successful EV manufacturers. The task ahead for VW and other incumbent car manufacturers is so tremendous that, looking back in the decades to come, the ones that make it
Okay. Are we back? It looks like we're back. Not super well, but we are back. I know, we're barely back at all. Holy moly, we're still dropping 90-something% of our frames. Yeah, it looks like we're gonna crash again. That is frustrating. Hopefully it'll stabilize here a little bit. Going on with my computer. I don't know if it's my computer or my connection or what. It was just OBS crashing out on me and stroking out. I don't know.
I mean, you can do that, and I'll watch you die. So that's.
If it maybe.
Somebody clip that, please. Oh my gosh. He even cried and it just made it more hysterical.
Does look like it might be stable again. Armor, welcome in. You chose an interesting time to show up. Hopefully, it'll hold together and we're through the worst of it, but we'll see. It's still saying that I'm dropping like 30% of my frames, which is not spectacular, and I don't know what's causing the issue. It's a network problem, so probably Cox Internet doing me over again, despite the fact that I pay over $100 a month for the access to their internet. It's great. I love that they charge so much and illegally compete all of their competition out of the area because they're allowed to. It's wonderful. I love it. I don't know what you mean. I don't know what you
This
mean.
is the Beluameer Aqueduct in Harderwijk, Netherlands. It solves a pretty simple problem. If you put a bridge for vehicles over a navigable waterway, you often have to make it either very high up with long approaches so the boats can pass underneath,
Blake, at this
or
point,
make it movable, which is both complicated and interrupts the flow of traffic, wet and dry.
I won't lie.
But if you put the cars below the water, both streams of traffic can flow uninterrupted
a week
with
or something off from streaming and put this thing into the shop again and see if they can figure out what's wrong with it, but at the same time that costs money, which I don't have a ton of to throw at this thing right now because we just spent money building it. So it's like
fairly modest bridge. Elevated aqueducts aren't that unusual, but this one is just so striking to see, I think, because it looks just like a regular highway bridge except the opposite. When I was a little kid, I read this book, The Hole in the Dike, about a Dutch boy who plugged a leak with his finger to save his town from a flood. And ever since then, as this little kid grew up into a civil engineer with a career working on dams and hydraulic structures, I've been kind of constantly exposed to this idea that the Netherlands is this magical country full of fascinating feats of civil engineering, like Willy Wonka's chocolate factory, but for infrastructure. I'm not necessarily proud to say this, but I think it's true for a lot of people, especially here in the US, that my primary cultural touchpoint with the Netherlands is just that they're really good at dealing with water. You know, you don't have to browse the internet for very long to find viral and sometimes dubious posts about Dutch infrastructure projects. Sometimes it feels like half my comment section on YouTube is just people telling me that the Dutch do it better. I am naturally skeptical of things that seem larger than life, especially when it comes to engineering, and without context, I think it's hard to separate myth from facts. This TikTok video being a myth, by the way, here's the actual scale of a cruise ship compared to the aqueduct. So let's take a look at a few of these projects and find out if the Dutch really have the rest of the world outclassed when it comes to waterworks. And I'll do my best to pronounce the Dutch words right too. Ik ben Grady, and dit is Practical Engineering.
It is true, the Dutch are well known around the world for their
The first hint that the Dutch really do lead the world in water infrastructure is in the name of the country itself. The Netherlands translates literally to the lowlands, and that's a pretty good description. A large portion of the country sits on the delta of three major rivers, the Rhine, the Maas, and the Scheldt, that drain a big part of Central Europe into the North Sea. Those rivers branch and meander through the delta, forming a maze of waterways, islands, inlets, and estuaries along the coast. About a quarter of the country sits below sea level, which creates a big challenge because it's right next to the sea.
His audio is a little bit louder than some of the other channels that we watch. I don't know why.
Settlers were involved in managing water. Large areas of marshland were drained with canals and ditches to convert them into land that could be used for agriculture. These plots of land, which through human intervention were hydrologically separated from the landscape, became known as polders. And the tradition of their engineering would continue for centuries to the present day. Unfortunately, that marshland, being full of organic material, decomposed over time. That, combined with the drainage of groundwater, caused the polders to sink and subside, increasing their vulnerability to floods. And that is kind of the heart of it. The Netherlands is a really valuable and strategic area for a lot of reasons. It's flat, it has great access to the sea and major rivers, providing for fishing and trade. It has prime conditions for farming and pastures, making it the second largest exporter
Not on
of
fiber?
agricultural
No.
products in the world. The problem
No,
is that
so you see,
all those
Cox Internet is the main ISP around here because they have illegally outcompeted anyone that could have attempted to try to compete with them, and they also hold the contract for the U.S. military base that's nearby. So they've basically bullied every single competitor out of the area, and thus have zero incentive to upgrade anything in the area, and so they don't upgrade anything. And it also doesn't help most of the buildings in this area were built during the war, or just after it, because the Tinker Air Force Base area in Oklahoma City, it only existed because there was a factory here building the bombers for the war. So a lot of the structures here are quite old and have very, very old infrastructure. So our internet here is abysmal, expensive, and non-competitive. It's great.
factors come with the
It's
downside of
lovely.
making the country extremely susceptible
But you still
to
pay the
floods,
normal
both
price.
from
You
the
know, you
North
pay the
Sea
price that
and
everyone
the
else
major
pays.
rivers
Just
that
don't
flow
expect
into it.
anywhere near
So,
the
for basically
performance that
all of
anyone
its
else gets.
history, people were building dikes, embankments of compacted soil meant to keep water out of low-lying areas. Over the centuries, huge portions of the sinuous Dutch coastline became lined with dikes, and the individual polders were often ringed with dikes as well to keep the interior areas dry. Of course, you still get rain inside a polder, plus irrigation runoff and sometimes groundwater, so they have to be continuously pumped out. And before the widespread use of electric motors and combustion engines, the Dutch used the source of power they are famous for, the wind. Windmills, or more accurately,
I'm
wind
Etherneted
pumps, since they
into
weren't
my
milling anything in this context,
my modem,
could be used
so
to
I'm
turn
connected
paddle
there,
wheels
but
or
like,
Archimedes screws to move
you know,
water
the
up
choke
and over
point
dikes,
is outside
keeping
of
canals
that.
and ditches within the polders from overflowing. Over time, poldering dryish land, the Dutch realized they could use exactly the same technique to reclaim land from lakes. Typically, land reclamation is done by using fill, soil and rock brought in from elsewhere to raise the area above the water. But it's not the only way to do it, and it's not that useful if you want to use that area for agriculture, since the good soil is under the fill. Another option is to enclose an area below the water level and then just get rid of the water. And this way you can create arable land just for the cost of a dike and a pump. If you love cheese, you might be interested to learn that one of the first polders in the Netherlands reclaimed from a lake was Beemster. The soil of the ancient marsh provides a unique flavor of the famous Beemster cheese. One glaring issue with reclaiming land by drawing down the water instead of building up is that the
that
low-lying
certainly could be a
polders
large
are
part
still
of it.
vulnerable to floods. In 1916, a huge storm in the North Sea coincided with high flows in several rivers, flooding the Zuiderzee, a large, shallow bay between North Holland and Friesland. The flood broke through several of the dikes, leading to catastrophic damage and casualties. Although the idea had been in discussions for years, the event provided the impetus for what would become one of the grandest hydraulic engineering projects in the world. One of the major issues with the Zuiderzee flooding from a surge in the level of the North Sea is the sheer length of coastline that has to be protected. Building adequately large and strong enough dikes to protect it all would be prohibitively expensive and just plain unrealistic. So Dutch engineers devised a deceptively simple solution. Just shorten the coastline. If the effective coast of the Zuiderzee could be substantially shorter, resources could go a lot further toward protecting the area against floods, so that's just what they did. Between the late 1920s and the early 1930s, a 20-mile or 32-kilometer dam and causeway called the Afsluitdijk was built across the Zuiderzee, cutting it off from the North Sea. Construction spread outward from 4 points, the coasts on either side, and 2 small artificial islands built specifically for the project. The original dam was built from stones, sand, glacial till, stabilizing mattresses of brushwood, and thousands upon thousands of hand-laid cobblestones. Cutting off the Zuider Zee from the ocean turned it into a large and ultimately freshwater lake called the IJsselmeer, named for the river that empties into it. But that inflow is an engineering challenge. Without a way for it to reach the sea, the lake would just overflow. So these sluices are like gigantic outflow valves that allow excess fresh water constantly building up in the IJsselmeer to be discharged into the sea, as it would have been back when it was still the Zuider Zee. The sluices, which are titanic hydraulic engineering structures themselves,
I don't know if there's any
use
plan for
gravity
fiber
to
to
drain
be
water during low
entering
tide.
Oklahoma
When that
City
passive
in any
discharge isn't
solid
enough,
way
new
anytime
high-volume
soon.
pumps can be used to make sure the level
Cities
of the
are
IJsselmeer stays within the ideal
notoriously
range.
slow
Over the
on
last
the
few
uptake
years,
on
the
fiber.
Afsluit dike has been undergoing a major
It feels like the
facelift.
countryside
With sea
gets
levels
access to
rising
it
and
much
the
quicker.
frequency of extreme weather events rising with it, the Dutch have completed a major overhaul, raising the crest of the dam by about 2 meters, adding thousands of huge concrete blocks to break waves and strengthen the structure. The larger blocks that are always in contact with the sea are truly gigantic, over 70,000 of them weighing 6.5 metric tons each. The project also included upgrades to the lock complexes and sluices, and the highway that runs along the top is also getting upgrades, including, in true Dutch fashion, the bike lanes too. And human passage isn't the only consideration for the project either. The Fish Migration River will allow fish to swim between the North Sea and the IJsselmeer and the river ecosystems upstream. The stark contrast between freshwater and saltwater is hazardous to fish, so the Migration River spreads out the salinity gradient into something more manageable. It's like a fish ladder, but on top of having an elevation gradient, it's also a ramp of saltiness. With the shallow Zuider Zee protected from the North Sea, the Netherlands saw an opportunity to increase its food supply by creating new land. Over the middle decades of the 20th century, the Dutch built 4 gigantic polders in areas that were once the seafloor. These polders were built using the same principles as before, just with scaled-up 20th century technology. There are even examples of our old friends Archimedes screws being used, albeit with modern electric motors. Veringermeer and Noordoostpolder were built first, but the Dutch faced a problem. With such large areas of land dried up, the groundwater in adjacent areas flowed out and into the polders, causing subsidence and loss of freshwater needed for agriculture. The following polders, a pair of adjacent tracts called Eastern and Southern Flevoland, avoided this by retaining a small series of connected lakes. These bordering lakes keep the polders hydrologically isolated from the mainland, and this is also where you'll find the Veluwemeer Aqueduct. The later 3 polders became Flevoland, a totally new province of dry land reclaimed from the sea. A succession of carefully selected crops were grown to rehabilitate the salty soil, making it fertile enough to farm. All you need to do to see how well it worked is to look at these aerial photos of all the farmland in Flevoland. There were plans for a 5th polder called Markervaard, and a huge dike was actually constructed for it. Hang-ups going as far back as the German occupation of the Netherlands in the Second World War to later environmental concerns stopped the polder from being completed. The dike did create another freshwater reservoir, the Markermeer, and only recently an artificial archipelago called the Markervaden was built as a nature conservation project and host to migratory birds, fish, and ecotourists alike. Even as the Zuider Zee works protected part of the Netherlands, many parts of the country were still facing threats from flooding. In the winter of 1953, an enormous storm in the North Sea raised a major storm surge, crashing into the delta, causing floodwaters to overwhelm much of the already existing and extensive flood control structures of the Netherlands. A staggering 9% of all the farmland in the whole country was flooded. 187,000 farm animals drowned, nearly 50,000 buildings were damaged or destroyed, and over 1,800 people perished. It was one of the worst disasters in the history of the country. Just as with the Zuider Zee, the extraordinary length of the coastline of this area meant that adequately strengthening all the dikes in response to the storm wasn't feasible. So an incredibly intricate plan called the Deltawerken, or Delta Works, was put into motion to effectively shorten the coastline with a series of 14 major engineering projects, including dams, dikes, locks, sluices, and more. Unlike with the Zuider Zee works, fully enclosing the area and cutting off the sea wasn't an option. Firstly, the Rhine and the Maas have gigantic flows. The Rhine is one of the largest rivers in Europe, and that can't just be walled off. There are also concerns about environmental impacts and ensuring the easy movement of the huge amount of shipping that uses this waterway. So many of these structures have to be functionally non-existent until they're needed. The resulting projects, along with the Zuiderzee works, have shortened the Dutch coast by more than half since the 19th century. These feats are so impressive, they're on the American Society of Civil Engineering's list of wonders of the modern world. And it's easy to see why when you take a look. This is
I didn't know that was a
Oosterschelde-Kering, the largest of all the delta.
Hold on, bring that back. What was that? I wish to see it. Oh, nope, that's the volume. Why are we affecting the volume? But we paused with the spacebar.
This is list of century. These feats are so impressive.
The American Society of Civil Engineers. Hold on, chat.
They're on the American Society of Civil Engineering's list of wonders of the modern world, and it's easy to see why when you take a look. This is the Oosterschelde-Kering, the largest of all the delta works. It was initially designed to be a closed dam, similar in some ways to the Afsluitdijk. If constructed as initially conceived, it would create another large freshwater leg. But by the time it was under construction in the 1970s, environmental impacts were much more appreciated than they were in the 20s and 30s. So the dam was designed to include huge sluice gates to allow massive tidal flows during normal conditions while retaining the ability to fully close off the inland portion of the delta from the sea during storm conditions. The Oosterschelde-Kering comprises 2 artificial islands and 3 storm surge barrier dams connecting them. The larger of the islands also contains
had to pull that up that way I could look at it later.
Pass through. The floodgates are staggering in scale. There are 62 steel doors, each 138 feet or 42 meters wide and weighing up to 480 metric tons. Even the piers between them were a monumental effort. They were built off-site, maneuvered into place with custom-built ships, then filled with sand and rock to sink them into place. Special ships also had to compact the seabed with vibration before placing the pillars. Another notable structure in the Delta Works is the Stormvloed-Kering Hollandse IJssel, a storm surge barrier protecting Europe's largest seaport. The project has it all. A lock to allow for the passage of ships, a bridge for road traffic with a fixed truss and a movable bascule portion crossing the lock, and 2 gigantic movable storm surge barriers crossing the main sluice. Each of these barriers is strengthened by a truss arch which makes them look like sideways bridges when viewed from above. And then there's the Maaslandkering. This is probably the most impressive storm surge barrier on the planet. Those TikToks showing out-of-scale cruise ships crossing the Veluwemeer should have just shown actual gigantic ships cruising through this huge ship canal safeguarded by the Maaslandkering. It's hard to communicate the scale of the 2 gates. They're considered one of the largest moving structures on Earth, and moving them is a process. The gates normally sit in dry docks. When it's time to close them, the dry docks are flooded and the hollow gates float in place. Then they're pivoted around gigantic ball and socket joints at the end of each truss arm. Each door is 690 feet or 210 meters wide, and once in place they're flooded with water so they sink to the bottom, completely blocking even the fiercest storm surge. In the event the doors remain closed long enough for the flow of the Rhine to build up dangerously high on the inland side, they can be partially floated, allowing for excess river water to run out to sea. Since its completion in 1997, aside from annual testing, the Maaslandkering has only been closed twice, once in 2007 and again in 2023. And to me, that tells the story of Dutch waterworks more than anything else. It's all a huge exercise in cost-benefit analysis. Look at 2 alternate realities, one where the Delta Works weren't built and one where they were, and then just compare the costs. In one case, the costs are human lives, property damage, agricultural losses from saltwater, and all the disaster relief efforts associated with, so far at least, just 2 big storms. And in the other case, the costs are associated with designing, building, and maintaining an infrastructure program that rivals anything else on the globe. The question is simple. Which one costs more? Look at many other places around the world, and the answer would probably be the Delta Works. Just the capital cost was around $13 billion, and that doesn't include the operation and maintenance or environmental impacts of such massive projects. But in the Netherlands, where a quarter of the country sits below sea level, it's a fraction of the cost of inaction. In the United States, most flood control projects are designed to protect up to the 1 in 100 probability storm. In other words, in a given year, there's a 99% chance that a storm of that magnitude doesn't happen. In the Netherlands, those levels of protection are much higher. River structures go from the 1 in 250 all the way to the 1 in 1,250, and flood protection from the North Sea goes up to the 1 in 10,000 year event. It only makes sense because practically the entire country is a floodplain. Massive investment in protection from flooding is the only way to exist. And those projects come with other costs too. The Zuiderzee works cost the entire area's fishing industry their livelihoods, and some consider converting such a large estuary into a freshwater lake one of the country's greatest ecological disasters. So there are no easy answers, and the Netherlands' battle against the sea will never really be over. Major waterworks are just the reality of the country, and they keep evolving their methods. One example is the Room for Rivers program, which is restoring the natural floodplain along rivers in the delta. Another is the Sand Engine, an innovative beach nourishment project that relies on natural shoreline processes to distribute sand along the coast. The Dutch government expects the North Sea to rise 1 to 2, 3 to 7 feet by the end of the century, meaning they'll have to spend upwards of $150 billion just to maintain the current level of protection. That sounds like a staggering cost, and it is, but consider this. That investment in protection for a major part of the country over 3/4 of a century is approximately equal to the economic impact of Hurricane Katrina, a single storm event in the US. Of course, the damage during Katrina was amplified by engineering errors, and we're far from comparing apples to apples, but I think it's helpful to look at the scale of things. Decisions of this magnitude are difficult to make and even harder to execute because we can't visit those alternate realities to see how they play out. But what we can do is look at the past to see how decisions have played out historically, and there's no place on Earth with a longer history of major public water projects than the Netherlands. In fact, the US Army Corps of Engineers and the Dutch government agency in charge of water, Rijkswaterstaat, have had a memorandum of agreement since 2004 to share technical information and resources about water control projects. And in the aftermath of Hurricane Katrina, the Army Corps consulted with the Rijkswaterstaat to help decide how to rebuild New Orleans' flood defense system. In 2021, those systems were put to the test when the region was pummeled by Hurricane Ida. It was an extremely powerful storm, and the torrential rains and violent winds did enormous damage, but the storm surge was repelled by the levees, barriers, and floodgates built with assistance of Dutch waterworks engineers. Many signs point to storms getting stronger and surges getting higher, which means that practically the whole world is in an uphill battle with floods. So we all benefit from that relatively small country with its low-lying delta lands buttressed against the sea and the expertise and knowledge gained by Dutch engineers through the centuries. All those barriers along the Dutch coast were designed to keep out storm surge, but I doubt the engineers.
Alright, and then I also had one more video queued up just because I see everyone talking about this fellow and some of
Trump
the
made after winning the election in November.
some of the
was
interviews
tapping
he's
one
been
man
on
to
with
be
all
what he called
those of you who follow me on Twitter may have seen me talking about some of the stuff that's going on, but I wanted to watch some videos on it.
Border Patrol agent and acting director of ICE with decades of experience in Republican and Democratic administrations. I sat down with him this week and began our conversation by asking him about the role of the U.S. military.
We got military on the border, not only helping us with departure flights on military planes, but they're helping to build infrastructure. They're putting up constant.
Okay, so haven't been tracking too closely on this. There are two big things going on in this regard right now. One, the deportation. Praise God, finally. Years overdue, but better late than never. Two, right out the gate, one of the first things that happened. Oh, come on. Of course, now we're having some lagging issues, aren't we? Come on. Of course, it's the. Okay. Not gonna lie, starting to get irritated. Starting to get real irritated. But see if it'll recover a little bit. Good lord, look at that dropped frame number spiking up. Yeah, we signed on for so many collabs this week. I have to. I can't take this week off. I don't know what I'm gonna do, chat. I have to figure something out. I'll have to figure something out because this is not sustainable the way that we're having issues right now, and I need to get to the bottom of if it's the computer or if it's the network right now because something is failing me, and I don't know precisely what it is, which one it is that's failing me. But when I get to the bottom of it, my God, will there be a consequence? Come on. Okay. Looks like it's largely stabilized now. I was going to go for a while today. I'm going to be real honest. We might just get to the end of this video and we'll wrap it there and we'll find someone to raid because I got to do some testing, see if I can figure out what is failing, if it's the computer that's failing or if it's my ISP that's failing me, because if it's my ISP failing me, I'm going to give them a phone call like they have rarely seen, I think. Okay, but what I was saying, for those of you who haven't been tracking too closely on this is Tom Homan. This is the border czar appointed by Trump. This is the head of ICE now. Former Border Patrol. So, guy knows what he's doing. He knows what he's talking about. The mass deportations have begun. They've started deporting people that aren't supposed to be in the country. And one of the big things that happened over the weekend was Colombia tried to play chicken with us, where they turned away 2 of our flights that were bringing their criminals back to their country. And they were like, no, we don't want them, and it's evil and imperialistic, and you're racists and terrible people for doing this. To which Trump immediately hit them with the, okay, I'm going to give you a 25% tariff. By the end of the week, it'll be a 50% tariff if you don't back down. They folded instantly, like the pathetic little whelps that they were. Quite funny. Also, it then immediately came out afterwards. There were some hilarious